I want to move on to some of the success stories out in the audience. Robert Prevel is the owner of Global Test Supply and on one of our tab boards. He recently accepted an equity investment in his company. In your case, the choice was to sell equity was not because of financial stress, but because you wanted to grow the company quickly. What did you look for in an investor?
Taking money from the bank in order to float those types of deals, for me, is pretty risk-free. You know, I'm a conservative entrepreneur. I don't want to take the bank money, put it into marketing and advertising in hopes of speculative profits that might appear. I'd rather take the bank's money, collateralize my business, my house, and my personal guarantee, because I consider that's a low-risk investment for me. So in looking for investment capital, there was two key things. I wanted somebody that could share my vision of how that capital would be applied to future growth. And I think, you know, when you're dealing with institutional investors, their agenda might be aligned, but their agenda is a lot different. They're looking for the payback on the loan, whereas a business partner is going to be looking for, you know, increased value in their equity stake in the company. The second thing that was important for me was somebody that would offer some synergistic value. And I met Randy through Dallas. Randy has a very impressive background in operations. I needed an operations person. He was willing to invest and as well as get involved in the company and has now become my business partner. So it's a very synergistic relationship, and I think the value of his investments beyond just the cash value because of his contribution in the operations of the business.
Randy, on the other side of the transaction, what invested you to invest in Robert's company?
Thank you, Dallas. Well, a lot of things that these two gentlemen at the end of the panel were talking about. You know, well, let me back up for a minute. I retired in April as CEO of Chemtex, and I'd done most of my work, Chemtex work was out of the country. So even though I lived in Wilmington for 5 years, I wasn't networked real well. I was gone most of the time. So I was looking around for something to, you know, do when I grow up. When Chemtex ended, my wife was strongly encouraging me to find something to do to get me out of the house. So I was looking around to either work with some equity partners and run a company who needed to go to the next growth plateau or needed to turn around, or invest in some companies and you know, just trying to decide what I wanted to do. Previously, I still own a staffing company, but I don't run that. I have a president who runs that very well. So I started networking. I knew Rich. We were friends. Rich Novak, he introduced me to Dallas. And Dallas introduced me to Robert. And Robert and I think, had some real good discussions. And I was interested in investing. I was very impressed with Robert's company, what he'd done to grow it, with the growth potential. And I could see that he needed some help on the sales operations side so he could concentrate on the growth, which he'd already done a marvelous job at. And I thought it was a good model. Plus, I could participate in the management of the company. So we agreed on the deal, and that's where we are. I think it's working very well.
And Jennifer, you also recently accepted an equity investment to launch CDEC. In your case, the equity investment was required to implement your business plan. What were the key selling points that helped you secure an investment in CDEC?
Thanks, Dallas. You're a gracious host. I'm glad to be here. I'm in good company. I'm Jennifer Smith. I'm the founder and president of CDAC, or the Southeast Decorative Arts Center. We are a trade-only resource for members of the design and construction industry. We help designers, architects, and builders, and the vendors that want those designers, architects, and builders to sell their product. We help reduce their cost. We help them get in front of their desired markets, and we help give their clients a better experience. I started looking for capital on November 5th last year, 2008. If you'll look back on your calendar, that was the day after Barack Obama was elected. When we were also in our deep slide into what's, I guess, been the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. And I was also fishing for money in an industry that was really hard hit, real estate and construction. And so a lot of people said, okay, this really isn't a very good time to start this business. And I said, this is a perfect time to start this business. So I think my first selling point is that I had created a really good business model. I wasn't just proposing to do the same thing and promising people that I was going to do it better. I was actually innovating a different way of doing business at a time when my target market was being forced to find ways to do what they do better to simply survive. So I innovated a different way. And I really do believe if you have a good business model, you can find capital. If you cannot find capital, you have a flaw in your business model, or you have a flaw in the way you are going about trying to find it. Which leads me to my next selling point, which goes back to what you said, was the biggest selling point was me. My eventual backer had been a client. He knew me, he knew I was a hard worker, he knew I was passionate, he knew I knew the business and the industry that I was in. And so not only was he investing in a good business model, he was investing in me. And so I would say to you, when you go try to find private capital, go to people you know and that people that know you. This gentleman I actually went to first, I thought he was going to help me get in front of some angels. And he asked me if I had a formal business plan, and I had done that, and I'm very much an advocate of that. It helped me really understand the realities of what I was going to need over 2 or 3 years to capitalize my business. He helped me also, and doing this formal business plan also helped me recognize and innovate some potential revenue streams I hadn't thought of before. And so those are hopefully going to be very profitable for us. And so when he agreed to look at my business plan, he said, "This is a really good business plan." I said, "Yeah, it's a really good business plan." And he said, "But I'm not going to pass it along to someone else." And he said, "Because I want to do it, because I think it's a good business model." And he believed in me. Let me also add here, I think, again, my timing, it would seem, might be kind of off in what I was trying to do, but it was actually a good time for me to look for private equity, because I think people that had cash this time last year were looking for places to put it other than the stock market. They were looking for private ways to invest that. And this person, I was kind of living, breathing person locally, and he can kind of keep his tabs on me, if you will. And like you said, he, and you as well, he has brought a tremendous amount to my table, not just the cash, but he has been able to really mentor me. I've been able to capitalize on mistakes he's made, and he's shared those with me. And even though by no means is he a daily operations person, it's great to be able to call him up and say, this has come up, or, what do you think? And so he's really kicked my level up as a businesswoman. That has been the biggest gift to me. I operate on a totally different level, an executive type level that I never would have dreamed that I should have been doing, and I am doing. Lastly, and most importantly, I think I was willing to go dollar for dollar with him. I was putting skin in the game. The fact that I believe so intensely in CDAC and was willing to say, I am all in, and I mean, I was all in. I had started researching this about 2 years ago, and I've been bootstrapping. I've been saving every penny from my paychecks. I hadn't been buying shoes or going on vacations and not buying pretty things. And in fact, I liquidated some of my pretty things. I had some antiques and some rugs, and I was raising capital, and I sold those things. And then I also basically took all the equity out of my house. And I believed so much that what I was doing was going to be successful that when I put literally my entire piggy bank on the table and my entire financial resources and my financial security, it was really easy for him to put a small part of his piggy bank in. So I think that it really goes all back to what makes everybody successful, and that's to be very passionate about what you do. I'm very passionate about CDAC. I live it, I eat it, I dream it, I talk about it all the time. And I think that comes through, and I think when you go to these angels, you should never hide that. You have to absolutely let that out, because if you're not passionate about something, you're not going to come up with a good business model, and people are going to get that comes through. And I think just also, how we spend our days is how we spend our lives. And I think that you have to be passionate about what you're doing. So I hope that each and every one of you have a business that you're passionate about, because it will be successful if you are.